Hey everyone, I want to go ahead and introduce our final project in this class, which is the research project part two, sharing research assignment. And this is going to be the project where we take the research that we did for research project part one, all of those sources and all of that stuff on the topic, and we're going to now apply it to some sort of text that we want to make to share this research with other people. So basically, what we're going to make for this final project is some sort of text outside of an essay. So we've made some essays already, great. What we want to do now is we want to start thinking a little bit about things like document design and multimodal texts. And so some of the suggested types of sources here are going to be things like you can make a zine, which we'll talk about, or a comic, like maybe a web comic. You could make an infographic or a poster. You could make a blog post. You could make a video, and that could be like a TikTok or a YouTube video. You could make a podcast. I've had students do really creative types of things, like things I didn't even think of, like songs, paintings. And then the other thing about this is that if you have some sort of like really big idea of something cool that you can make, but you don't have the time, the money, the resources, you could also make a plan for a type of text that you would create given the time, the money, the resources. So, for example, like a video game, a movie, something like that, where you could share this information on a larger scale or in a larger project. And so, if that's the case, you just want to make sure that you still include the stuff that we're going to be grading you for on this paper, which is I need to make sure that I need to be able to see the research that you've done, that you're including facts, quotes, something from the research, something that you've learned, and that you're also citing those sources. And so this is going to be a very simple project to grade. It's really a completion project, but it's going to need to be clear that you have both of these things included. And then that's going to be worth 10 points. This whole project almost exclusively based on you just sharing that information in whatever form you want. So I'm not going to be grading on things like video editing quality or you know, anything like that that's like about the quality of the text itself. And so what I'm hoping that does is it takes a little bit of pressure off. And if you're wanting to try to make a certain type of text that maybe you haven't made before, or maybe you've made it before, but you're like, I don't know if I can make a good video or I don't know if I can make a good quality podcast, just keep in mind, like that doesn't really matter here. What matters is if you're sharing that research and citing it. Okay, so then how do you cite it? Really quick, let me take a step back. There's no length requirement for this project. So I have students who make stuff that's like 45 minutes long, but then I also have students who make stuff that's much, much shorter. It's really hard to tell like how much work went into something that's long versus something short versus, a video versus a podcast versus a blog versus a whatever. And so all I'm really going to be doing here is looking to see whether or not you've completed the required things, sharing research, citing research. As long as you've done that, you're fine, and there's no length requirement. Um, in terms of how you cite sources, it's going to depend on the type of source that you're making. So, for example, if you're making a video or a podcast, a lot of times the people in the podcast or video, they just say, so like according to the American Heart Association, and then you would share a quote or a fact immediately after. You can also share links in the caption or the show notes for the video or podcast, or you can put text on the video itself if you have that kind of editing skill. Okay. If you're making a blog post, usually what you do is you just embed links in the text. And so it just says the patent first spotted by Game Rant. So they're referencing an article by Game Rant. And then if I click on this, it's going to take me to that article. And there's another one down here from gamesindustry.biz. And if I click on that, it's going to take me to whatever that is. So that's typically how we see sources shared in blog posts. It's just embedded links, but you can also share your sources at the end of the post. You just say sources, colon, and then some links. And then if you're doing a poster or infographic, typically what we'll see for these is text at the very, very, very bottom. And it's usually small and it'll just say sources, colon, and then who the authors are, or maybe the links to those texts. Sometimes it's also just part of like, the infographic will say, according to the American Heart Association, 4 out of 5 people, blah, 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 blah. So that can also be how you cite those. And then finally, the most important thing is going to just be paying attention to what other texts like the one that you're making do. So if you are going to make an infographic, you might want to go around and look at posters or infographics around campus and get a little bit of a sense, or online, I mean, get a little bit of a sense of what other people are doing when they make infographics or if they make posters. So wherever you are, there's probably going to be posters. There's probably to be infographics easy online that you'll find even when you're not even trying to, including in ads, by the way. And so just kind of try to pay attention to how other people are doing it and what you like and don't like. Finally, we just have one assignment this week, which is the community service and art reflection. It's going to ask you some questions that I'm hoping will get you thinking about the type of text you want to make and the type of texts and experiences that you've had, and hopefully get you thinking about how you might use some of the stuff we're learning outside of class. So that's everything. I hope you have a great week and good luck with your writing.